President Trump's longtime associate, Roger Stone, is set to plead not guilty in federal court in Washington, D.C. on Tuesday after being indicted in Robert Mueller's investigation. Earlier, CBSN political reporter Caitlin Huey Burns spoke with former White House Director of Communications Anthony Scaramucci about Roger Stone and the implications for the president.
I want to first talk about Roger Stone. He's indicted on Friday, big news. How concerned should President Trump be?
Well, I mean, the president knows the facts better than any of us, but, you know, I think what the presumption is that Roger had information that was probably improperly obtained. I'm not saying it was or it wasn't. Let's assume that he's innocent until he's proven guilty. But if there's a linkage between Roger and then Steve Bannon, and then the next question would be, is that linkage also a direct line into the president? And so I don't know the answer to that. I was on that campaign for almost a year. I was on the president's transition team for 12 weeks. I never saw anything related to Russian collusion. What happened with WikiLeaks and Roger Stone and Steve Bannon, if it is illegal and it got up to the president, that's a very bad set of facts for the president. But I still don't think that removes him from office, because you're going to have to get 67 senators to vote for his removal from office. Even if the House says we're going to impeach him, there has to be a trial in the Senate. So what I'm hoping is that cooler heads prevail here and we start to decriminalize things that happen in our political conversations. So we'll have to see. If I can say one last thing, if Secretary Clinton were the president, she would be investigated on her emails, on her foundation, and all those other things. I also think that that is nonsensical as well. So we need to sort of stop it on both sides.
But going back to the WikiLeaks component, it is a big deal. If he was talking to WikiLeaks, if he was coordinating with them in any way, it would be a very big deal beyond beyond the question of whether the president is involved.
So I don't know the law on that. So I don't know if if WikiLeaks is a news organization that's leaking out information and the president gets a hold of that information, or the candidate, if that's illegal, then they'll push for an impeachment. And so, again, I'm not trying to understate it or make light of it. I'm just talking about the practical political reality of it. Let's build the worst case scenario. Let's say that all of that stuff's illegal, the president's totally tied to it. I still don't think he gets removed from office, because, again, you got to get 67 senators, and at that point it becomes more of a political discussion than it does a court of law or a criminal one.
But still a huge political problem if it were to go that route.
Well, I think it's already, let's just be honest with everybody, Caitlin, I think it's already a huge political problem. This has been a 2-year distraction on the presidency. The president's done a great job on the economy. He's done a great job of delayering regulation. I think he mishandled the governmental shutdown. If people want to be honest with him, I like the president. I think that he didn't have the right cards to play that governmental shutdown. 35 days later, he lost that card game. He'll lose the game again in February if he decides to do it again. So I'm not a Trump apologist. I'm somebody that likes the president and wants to be supportive of him, but also wants to be honest with people about what I really think. Paint the worst case scenario. I think he still stays in office. And so now the question is, can they beat him at the ballot box in 2020?
But knowing what you know about this president and, having served in this White House, even for a short time, but being in contact with the president, I believe you spoke to him last in December.
I try to talk to him once a month.
On the government shutdown, I mean, he's getting a lot of heat and pressure from Fox News, right, which he watches, we know, a lot. How concerned should he be about kind of where his base is now that he has been perceived by allies as caving?
Okay, so first of all, let me just say this. He watches everybody.
Okay.
So I'm going to give him your link to CBSN so we can get it on his feed as well. And he tapes everything. So he watches it indiscriminately throughout the day. But I think the issue with the Fox people are as follows. You're never going to get everything you want out of any political leader. You know, Ed Koch, who was the mayor of this great city, once said, if you believe 9 out of the 12 things that I'm saying, you should vote for me. If you believe 12 out of the 12 things that I'm saying, you need a psychiatrist. And so what happens in politics, you cannot get everything that you want. So whether it's Lou Dobbs or Ann Coulter, or you pick the Fox News commentator that's upset with the president, he's by and large done a very good job for them as it relates to policy. But I think here, because the government is set up for compromise, I don't think he's got the cards, if you will, or the votes to get what the Fox News commentators or the conservative pundits want on the wall. And so if I were him, I would walk away from it, because he's at a approval rating of about 36%. I think that was the latest one. he needs to be in the high 40s before 2020.
Is he in danger?
I hope he does that.
Is he in danger of his base corroding further?
I don't think so.
Because of the shutdown?
No, that base seems pretty rock solid. That 36 number was the number that we saw during the campaign. It's 2 years later. He's got that number. So even though he didn't win the wall deliberations, I think he has that number. The president once said as a candidate that he could shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue. You remember him saying that? And he could keep his base. So if he's lost 1 or 2 rounds of a negotiation with Nancy Pelosi, I don't think the base is going anywhere. And I would point out to your viewers, where could they go? There's no place for them to go other than him. He's their best hope. So he would be well served to try to come up with some moderate ideas so that he can take that 36 number up into the high 40s.
And grow it. You just got back from the World Economic Forum, and at the time it was happening, the government was still shut down. What were you hearing among people there about this kind of governance, about the government being shut down for over a month, the hit to GDP and economic growth?
Well, first of all, I just want to say I went from the CBS Celebrity Big Brother house to the World Economic Forum. I don't know how that's going to ever happen again, but we'll have to see, right?
First here.
But as it relates to the governmental shutdown, I think that the World Economic Forum, the consensus there was very grim. You lost $11 billion of economic activity, $3 billion completely disappeared. It probably cost you 25 basis points on our quarter's GDP. And so all of those things are very bad facts. But the biggest fact that I think is the worst fact is that the world feels like the United States is detached / disengaged from the rest of the world. And I don't like that. I think that's a dangerous place for the United States to be. And I wish that there wasn't a shutdown, because had there not been a shutdown, the president was scheduled with a full entourage to be at the World Economic Forum. And I think that's always a better thing for the world, to be fully engaged like that. Last point I'll make, World Economic Forum, very grim. I've been there 12 years. The year they were the most excited by was 2007, and we went into the global financial crisis a year later. So I think that the elites, frankly, are a counter-indicator of what's going to happen. So I'm pretty optimistic, given the fact that the elites are so pessimistic.
Well, and kind of on that note, you have several Democrats getting into the race for president in this primary that seems to be growing by the day. A lot of them, though, taking a very harsh stance on Wall Street. What is the sentiment among those on Wall Street and those in your community about what this Democratic primary could look like?
Listen, it's classic politics. You know, you have to understand that it took 25 years for Wall Street to dig out of its hole from 1929 to 1954. It wasn't until Prescott Bush was elected senator from Connecticut that Wall Street started to gain favor again in the domestic community. And so we're in the 11th year since the crisis. It's going to take another 15 or so years before people start feeling better about Wall Street. It's a very easy target. Because remember, it's not a race or an ethnic origin class. It's just a class of rich people that Democrats can shoot at and try to vilify. And so they'll do that, and they'll do that with some measure of success. But I view this as more cyclical than anything else. So I'm not overly concerned by it.
We do have a couple of billionaires considering this race. Howard Schultz announced on 60 Minutes yesterday that he's thinking about an independent bid. Michael Bloomberg also is weighing perhaps getting into the Democratic primary. What do you make of those two candidates or potential candidates?
So in Howard Schultz, first of all, Howard Schultz is a legendary entrepreneur. I've got an enormous amount of respect for him. But if he runs as an independent, if you look at the way the math works and you look at the very powerful duopoly of our political system, I think it's very unlikely he'll win as an independent candidate, and he'll likely draw from the Democrats. So I'm pretty confident that most Trump supporters would cheer his entrance into the race. I would suggest to him that he run as a Democrat and see if he can, you know, go around the track and beat his fellow Democrats. As it relates to Mayor Bloomberg, I love the mayor personally. I think he's the most formidable candidate to potentially face President Trump if he were the nominee for the Democratic Party. Now, winning the nomination for the Democratic Party with Mayor Bloomberg's personal philosophy, he's primarily a centrist and slightly right of center on most business issues and a little bit left to center on social issues. That's not where the Democratic Party is right now. So there's 30 people in the race. If that dilution allows him to surface to the top, he would be the one person I would tell the president that you got to be super worried about, because he's wickedly smart, very, very rich, and he has an adaptive personality, and he could take the punches from the president and pivot.
How worried should the president be about his reelection, and would you vote for him again?
Well, listen, I probably will vote for him again. You have to remember, I'm a lifelong Republican, and I've been very loyal to the party. I broke from the party one time where I voted for my former classmate Barack Obama in the 2008 election. But I've been a lifelong, you know, I'm right of center on business and way left of center on social issues. So I think the president has primarily done a very good job, but there's a lot of things that he's doing that he could be doing better. If he was less obnoxious on Twitter and more strategic on Twitter, and he delivered a little bit more of a healing together message and sort of ignored the attacks that are coming at him from the mainstream media. 85% of the media, according to the Harvard study, not me, they say that they're decidedly negative on him. I would say ignore those attacks, rise to the presidency, be way more presidential. You can get into the middle. If you really look at his policies, one after the other, they've been primarily moderate, common sense policies. So the answer is yes, I would probably vote for him. But 2 years is a very long period of time. Let's see what's in the Mueller report. Let's see what happens with Roger Stone. Let's see if he decides to run. There's a lot of things that are swirling around right now, and so we don't know the answer to that. Who are you voting for?
I can't.
Who are you voting for? She's not going to tell me, right?
Because
she's like a journalist. She's like very cool.
But I can't let you go. I can't let you go before asking about Big Brother. What happened?
Well, it was fantastic. I mean, I had a great time. The producers from CBS came to visit me when I was on the set of Bill Maher. As you probably know, Bill Maher does his show at a CBS studio where they film The Price is Right. And they came over to me and they pitched me on being on Big Brother. I have to confess, I had never watched the show. I knew about it because Omarosa was on it last year. So my wife and I looked at it, and their pitch was, we wanted you to be part of a twist, be a short stay in the house. That fit my schedule nicely, frankly, because I had to go to the World Economic Forum and I've got a business to run. And so I thought it would be a lot of fun. And I have to tell you, it was one of the most fun things I've done in my life. So if you get a chance to get invited into the Celebrity Big Brother house, I would recommend it to you.
Were you kicked off, or are you?
No. I was part of a twist.
Okay.
I was never really technically a house guest. And so last Friday night, if you didn't see the show, I snuck out the back door. I put my suit on. And I beamed into the house by television to my fellow housemates to let them know that I wasn't really a house guest, but I was there to provide all of them with a second chance. The second chance that I didn't get in the White House, I was going to give them on the Celebrity Big Brother show. And so the people that were on the chopping block, they had a chance to compete again for another veto opportunity to remove themselves from the threat of eviction. So for me, it was a gas. I had a great time.
So lots of politics involved, even in Big Brother.
Yeah, no, let me tell you, Big Brother's pretty cutthroat. You know, when you get down to it, all games of elimination, including the presidential election, is you're eliminating down to one person, and so a lot of the bad human characteristics fly out of there. So I was very happy to evacuate from the house before you saw any of those bad instincts in myself. See,
Okay.
I got out of there clean.
But we will stay tuned. Thank you so
Caitlin,
much for
great to be
having us.
here.
We appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.